And now, straight out of Boston, Massachusetts, it's time for Entertainment Talk Nation, your number one entertainment talk show, discussing everything from the movies to video games and more. And now, here is your host, Robert Rosado.
Hey everybody, welcome to the E.T.N podcast. This is Rob. We are back. I hope everybody listening had a fantastic Christmas. Boy, I know I did, but at the cost of the Entertainment Talk Nation podcast, we are recording live on Twitch right now. We have an audience with us, so I want to say hi to chat real quick. How you guys doing? I'll be with you guys in a little bit as soon as we cover some of these topics here. So don't think that I forgot about you guys. And as far as you guys listening elsewhere, I want to thank you for your patience waiting for the next podcast episode. As you guys know, I am a family man. I had my parents come in for Christmas. My sister came in. It was a fantastic holiday. But I'm happy to be back. I'm happy to be back and talking about some entertainment-related topics that have been going on over the last week. Now, look, it's before I get started on that, there's a couple of things I want to cover. We got an email in the mailbag, and we got a message, and these have been sitting there for quite a while. I want to make sure I take care of these before we get into any topics. So first, I want to cover the email, and this one comes from Anthony Castanetti. I hope I pronounced that right. If I didn't, I do apologize if you're listening. Rob, I listened to your podcast and YouTube videos. Great work. I saw SkyWalker last night. My wife and I enjoyed it, and we're not huge Star Wars geeks, but casual fans. I'm a big Godzilla fan. I've noticed a lot of similar complaints that are being said about SkyWalker that were also said about Godzilla King of the Monsters. Messy story, little character development, too fast-paced, moving quickly between lots of locations, things that don't make sense, and tons of action. The last couple of seasons of Game of Thrones also seem to be similar, quick pace, not as much character development, etc. Do you think this is a new approach taken by film and TV studios to attempt to make both hardcore fans and general audiences happy, also attempting to keep up with everyone's short attention span in an age of instant everything? I enjoyed Game of Thrones, Star Wars, and Godzilla, but I understand the complaints. What do you think? Also, check out this Godzilla statue my father and I had sculpted from these chainsaw sculptures in Vermont. It's massive, almost 1,000 pounds, and I'll share that with the chat as soon as we are done with the podcast recording. Interesting, because a lot of the stuff you're mentioning is true in terms of, and a lot of the comparisons and shows you're bringing up and movies you're bringing up. I do believe there's a sense to try and keep people's attention with bright lights and flashy colors. I do notice that some shows or movies that tend to have a slow burn, a lot of people are not as patient to give it the time to develop that it needs. But I don't think it's to the point where it's dominating altogether. I still think, you watch a good TV show, and most TV shows, it doesn't matter whether they're good or bad, but most TV shows start slow. And some of the most popular TV shows, the first few episodes, if you go back and watch them, they drag pretty good. So I don't think I think creators are just being lazy in my opinion. I think in terms of Star Wars, I think that was just a trap. I don't think J.J. Abrams had much to work with. I don't think he had much time to work with it. And I think he was looking for quick answers. A movie like Godzilla King of the Monsters, I think that movie was a case of Mike Doherty wanting to make something for the fans, and while it worked for most of the fans, it didn't work for the reviewers and the critics and some of the general audience. I do think there is some truth to what you're talking about. I do think there are some instances where creators, developers are trying to move things along too quickly so that way they don't lose the attention of their audience. But I think that's more so along the lines of micro entertainment, like YouTube, high-end YouTube creators. I'm talking about the creators who actually do little entertainment shows on their channels. These are the guys who have like 10, 15 million viewers. I think stuff like that, you'll see that more commonly. But that's my opinion. But I don't think it's to the point where I think there's a lot of lazy writing out there. I do think there's a lot of issues with story elements, and there's a lot of formulaic things going on, but I don't think it's because of the lack of attention span. This next one is a call-in we had about a week ago, so definitely got to catch up on this one.
Hi, E.T.N. It's me, Dean Sinha. You might recognize some of my comments under my former username, AwesomeGodzilla, with the Kirby icon with the sunglasses. So my question to you is, you've mentioned a lot about, some Godzilla villains not working in the MonsterVerse, this and that. But what Marvel villains or Marvel characters do you think would not work in the MCU?
Well, that's a tough question to answer. I'm there are so many characters and so many villains in the MCU that I'm bound to miss one or two. But if I had to say this, as of right now, I don't think there's too much Marvel can't do. I mean, just a couple of years ago, they made people fans of a talking raccoon and a talking tree. So I think for them, sky's the limit. I don't think there's anything within the MCU that won't work if they write it correctly. And Marvel is just a case of fantastic story writing can pretty much overcome any obstacle from bringing in a character. Now, when you talk about kaiju movies, in particular Godzilla, this is a genre that still requires some fantastic writing. And while I love both movies that have been in the MonsterVerse, let's face it, the writing has been mediocre at best. So the other thing you got to understand is visually. There's always that argument, well, if Marvel can get away with making a talking raccoon, then we can bring in a Mechagodzilla. No. The reason why? You're not Marvel. Plain and simple. Marvel is a worldwide phenomenon. Kaiju and Godzilla is a niche. And that's just a fact. People find Baby Yoda cute because Star Wars is worldwide renowned. People find Baby Groot and Rocket Raccoon funny and cute because Marvel is worldwide renowned. Godzilla's name is worldwide renowned. Godzilla at the box office is not worldwide renowned. There's a big difference. Okay, Godzilla's been in cinema since the 50s. Everyone knows of him or about him, but not everyone is a hardcore fan of him. So there's certain tangibles you got to look into. Right now, as it stands, I can't think of any Marvel character that won't work in the Marvel Cinematic Universe simply because of how they have developed their world. They have already opened the doors. Even someone like Shuma Gorath, who's being rumored to be in the next Doctor Strange movie. And you know what Shuma Gorath looks like. If you don't, he's got 6 tentacles and he's a big floating eye. He's basically like a beholder. Somehow they'll make that work. Morrow, who is an X-Men, a newer X-Men, basically a woman who can pull bones out of her body and toss them, would somehow work, as silly as that sounds. We've all heard the rumors of Squirrel Girl coming into the MCU. So, and this is because well-written story, a development of 10 years of a universe that they have opened up systematically throughout the years. This is why characters like Rocket Raccoon and Groot work. The MonsterVerse is 4 movies in, probably ending soon. You already have a genre that people look upon comedically. Not nobody's fault. That's just how it happened. You bring in a giant Mechagodzilla, a giant robot Godzilla, or if you bring in a baby Godzilla, you're going to run into some problems. You haven't developed your world long enough, and you haven't written good enough stories to make that a possibility for people to accept. And that's why Marvel can probably get away with doing that more than the MonsterVerse can. So I want to thank you guys both for your reaching out to the E.T.N podcast. Don't forget, if you want to send a question, comment, or anything to the E.T.N podcast, it's etnpodcast@gmail.com. And of course, SpeakPipe is where we have our messaging system. We will leave a link for that in the description of this episode. Now, moving on, I want to start off with The Mandalorian, which had its season ending episode, the season finale, uploaded onto Disney Plus last night, or actually yesterday morning, I should say. And I didn't catch it till late last night. And I got to say, I'm sad to see it go, but I'm very, very pleased with this season overall. Now, I know there was supposed to be a couple of podcasts where I did some reviews on individual episodes. Once again, because of the holidays and things of that nature, didn't get around to it. So I want to talk about the season overall. The Mandalorian is the beacon of light in the Star Wars universe right now. It is the beacon of light. Nothing I hate more right now is talking Star Wars, unless it's the Mandalorian. Because if you go online onto Twitter, if you go online onto any social media, if you look on YouTube, it's always the same crap. It's been the same crap for the last couple of years, and that's one side pointing the finger at Disney for being crap, and then it's Lucasfilm pointing at, and other media outlets pointing at the toxic fan base. Here's how I feel. They can both take a short trip off a long trip off a short ledge and go screw themselves. I'm tired of it. It's getting sickening. Star Wars is something I used to enjoy. Star Wars is something I used to love watching and talking about with other people. Now I can't stand the sight of it. I can't stand the sight of some of the fans, not all the fans, because there's still some fans out there that are quite pleasant to talk to. And as far as the media, and I'm not even going to say Lucasfilm more than anything. The media right now, every other article is toxic fan base. Well, you know what? How about you stop being a toxic media outlet? I'm sick of it. I'm sick of both sides. But then there's The Mandalorian, the saving grace for Star Wars right now. And this was a fantastic season. Pedro Pascal has done an excellent job playing Mando. He has shown further range than I thought he had. And I'm not saying I never thought he had range, because I've seen him play Oberyn Martell, and he's fantastic. In fact, he was one of the few characters that when he got killed, fans were disappointed. Fans wanted to see more of him. I liked him in Triple Frontier. But in Mandalorian, he made this character his own. He did a great job showing and portraying his feelings and his emotions while wearing a helmet the whole goddamn season. Can somebody get this man an Oscar, even though this is not a movie? Can we put this man in a serious drama? He's got range. I haven't seen a performance like this with limited ways to show or feed off of other people because he's wearing a helmet. I haven't seen this kind of range since Tom Hanks in what was the movie that he got he was talking to the volleyball, and I forget the name of the movie. God, it bothers me right now because it's on the tip of my tongue. Let me look in chat, see if somebody can tell me. I'll cheat and look over in chat. Maybe I shouldn't mention that on the podcast, but the range is just incredible. Castaway, thank you. I'll give Targaryen Jedi 24 the credit for that. Castaway, thank you very much for that. I haven't seen this kind of range since Castaway, where Tom Hanks is basically portraying emotion to a volleyball. On top of that, you had the introduction of one of probably the most popular characters to hit, fictional characters to hit in a very long time, and that's in Baby Yoda. Everything about this show was just fun. Period. It was just fun. Even the episodes that were not that great were fun. I also got to give props to Gina Carano, because goddamn it, that woman has improved in her acting. She had this one segment, and just so you guys know, everybody here, everybody listening, this is full-on spoilers for the whole podcast. But I got to give credit to Gina Carano. She had a scene in the last episode where she had to convey some sort of emotion, and it is the best performance I have seen her give ever. I'm not saying she's perfect. I'm not saying she's on her way to any awards, but you got to give credit where credit's due. Gina has improved immensely, so credit to that. And credit to the production team for giving her an opportunity to show her range that she has, she's improved on. Again, I'm not saying she's going to win any awards. I'm not saying there's not still improvement. But if you look at some of her older movies compared to this performance that she's given in this show, there's an improvement there. And it was more than good enough for her character and for what she needed to do. Giancarlo Esposito. Never ever seen somebody come into a show and make such an impact when he's only had, an episode and a half? I mean, this is a team they put together in terms of production team, directors, because they had a lot of directors do different episodes, and all of them, this is what a plan looks like. This is what communication looks like. This is the result of planning ahead. This is the result of a team getting together and communicating on where we are going. And for the record, the only advantage I would give The Mandalorian over any movie is the fact that A, it's shorter per episode, and B, yes, you have an opportunity to have some episodes that some people would call filler. I would call just a shorter story in the existence of a larger one. And there weren't too many of those. There weren't too many episodes out of these 8 that didn't have something to do with the overall arc of the story. But I thought The Mandalorian really, really made me feel good about watching Star Wars. I'm happy that I can talk to other people about The Mandalorian and not have to worry about all the crap going on YouTube and Twitter and other media outlets. They're trying. Don't get me wrong. They're trying. They're trying to do plenty. They're trying to do plenty to bring it into the fold, but it hasn't worked. Not yet, at least. Mandalorian was a fantastic show. What we learned from the beginning to the end is that the primary reason the Mandalorian took in the Baby Yoda was because he saw himself in the Baby Yoda. Someone he found, a young person, defenseless to some extent. Obviously, Baby Yoda has something else to say about that. Defenseless to some extent, and that was the connection. And we find out at the end that, well, not that we didn't know this already, but there's a little bit of Jedi going on there. And looks like next year we're already getting a season 2. It's been all but confirmed. And I gotta say, it was a lot of fun. I can't wait till the second season. If you have not seen The Mandalorian, I suggest you go check it out. This last episode was really good. I love the sacrifice that IG-11 made. Taika Waititi is, this guy is just fantastic at what he does. He made the best Thor movie in the Thor trilogy. He played IG-11 when he did an excellent job with that. I believe he directed this last episode, and it was an excellent one at that. And this is a shining example of when you do things right, when you plan things, when you communicate cohesively with your team, when you have a leader that knows what they want you to do and doesn't let you go overboard. Mandalorian is the best thing in Star Wars right now, bar none. So if you want a good Star Wars experience without all the crap to go along with it, go watch The Mandalorian. Although I'm pretty sure you have by now. Now, moving on to another show that I'm not quite done with yet. I'm up to episode 6. I didn't get to finish the season last night, but this is The Witcher. Now, I admit I'm going to have to go through The Witcher again. There are some story elements in this season that I didn't pick up on till much later in terms of how they were being told. There is a time, almost like a time scale here where you're hearing a story or you're learning about the story from the past, and they don't make it so obvious, but it's not obvious either. I just didn't pick up on it until it was much too late. But in terms of the show itself, you hear a lot of comparisons to Game of Thrones and things like that. I'm going to be honest, I don't see the comparison there. Game of Thrones is its own thing, and I give much credit to The Witcher. It's its own thing. It delves into magic much more than most other fantasy stories that I've seen up to this point, and much more use of that magic. The monsters are beautifully grotesque. There are some CG elements I saw that weren't that great, but not bad enough for me to say the show is horrible. The show is not. Henry Cavill has completely adopted himself as Geralt. Now, I've played the first two Witchers. In fact, I played the first Witcher when it originally came out many years ago, before the remaster, even before the game became super popular. And then I played The Witcher 2. I have not actually played Witcher 3 yet. I should get on top of that. But I would say that Henry Cavill has completely adopted himself as Geralt. He is so Geralt in this show that it's almost spooky how much he is like the game version of the character. It's incredible. He does an excellent job. If you have not played the game or read the books, you might convey his acting performance as dry and bland. But no, he is acting like Geralt. This is Geralt. What you're watching is Geralt. And much credit to the creators of this show. There is more game love or game. I'm trying to look for a good word to explain it. It's not heavily based on the games, but it's not ignoring the games either. Let's put it that way. There are some monsters from the games in this show. Obviously, a lot of the characters. Now, in terms of the story, I couldn't compare that for you right now because, number one, I have not played The Witcher in well over a year or two, which was part 2. So I cannot sit here and tell you what story elements are coming over from the game. If I'm not mistaken, it shouldn't be anything from the game story-wise. It's all from the book, which I have no idea about. Never read the books. Might change. Never read the books. But this show is really, really good. It's really good. The fans are loving it. Obviously, there is that wonderful, wonderful media outlet out there that hates it because it's, sexualizing women or whatever other case there may be. I would say that is completely false. Yennefer is probably just as much the focus in this show as Geralt is. She has a very interesting story plot from how she started to where she came to where she ended up. And I would say the other main story plot is Ciri and how her story is developing. Now, I would say Yennefer's story is a lot stronger. There's a lot more emotion conveyed in that story because of, her starting off as this grotesque, disformed woman who just happens to have natural talent in magic, but gets rejected by society. And Ciri, who is a princess essentially, and who has escaped from the siege on her mother's kingdom. And then I would say her mother. You want to talk about strong female character, her mother is a kick-ass knight. Not only is she a queen, but she's a queen that goes out on the battlefield with her men and throws down. It's a great show. It doesn't matter what your beliefs are. You got great female heroines, you got a great male heroine, and you got a lot of gray areas in this world. And that's what makes The Witcher so captivating. Even as a game, it's a gray world. You're never going to make a choice that is 100% right. You'll never make a choice that is 100% wrong. You just make a choice that has consequences that are bad for one set of people and not so bad for another set. And if you like The Witcher because of the monster hunting, you're going to get plenty of that here. I was actually quite surprised just how much monster stuff they put in the show. And I'm only starting episode 6. I still have 2 episodes. I still have 6, 7, and 8. So essentially I have 3 episodes to cover. I'm a big Henry Cavill fan. I loved him as Superman, and now he's playing another character I just love. And I'm more and more, and he's a PC gamer. God bless him. God bless him. So these are 2 shows right now, and I'm also going to be checking out the second season of Lost in Space. That's another one on my list. But right now, what I would say is, if you haven't seen The Mandalorian, do yourself a favor and see it. But if you haven't seen The Witcher, go check out The Witcher. Most people have seen Mandalorian at this point, so I'm not worried about that. But if you have not seen The Witcher, go see The Witcher. The Witcher is a fantastic show. Now, I want to move on to briefly, very briefly, The Rise of Skywalker. 70% dip at the box office on Friday. 70%. I mean, you want to talk about a nosedive. Now, it has crossed the 600 million plateau. I do still believe it'll get to $1 billion. But I'm interested to see what the overall dip is going to be throughout the weekend. Because as of Friday, 70% dip at the box office. That's telling. Within all this is, as I was saying in the opening of the show, the media and the fans both seem to not like this movie, but for different reasons. The fans don't like it because it's a mess. It's exposition after exposition. The media doesn't like it because it craps all over The Last Jedi. If you go to Rotten Tomatoes, the audience score has been sitting at 86% for over a week. It has not moved. It started at 86% with 200 reviews, 200 plus reviews. I believe now it's at 50 plus thousand reviews, and it's still at 86%. I don't have to go into details or any numbers or any algorithms to convince you that that is just merely impossible. For a percentage number not to move in 1 week as the reviews pour in. It's mathematically impossible for that percentage not to move. Rotten Tomatoes this year has been a complete and utter disaster. They've been exposed, and I still find it hard to believe that people even still go there at this point. The movie overall is just not doing well. It's not doing well. It's going to make its $1 billion. It's going to be a very unimpressive. It's probably going to be one of the most unimpressive $1 billion box office movies ever. And, there'll be people out there, they're going to sit there and they're going to say, hey, yeah, it made $1 billion. Look, don't get excited. So did Transformers. Okay? So did Transformers. There's a lot of other crap movies that made $1 billion. $1 billion, making $1 billion at the box office these days, you can do that by accident. Okay? Let's not get crazy if the movie makes $1 billion. So I'm going to be very interested to see the box office numbers come Monday morning to see what the final tally drop is. Because if it was at 70% on Friday, I cannot see that number improving on a Saturday. And even if it does, it's going to be very slight. Especially going into a weekend where a lot of people are going to be traveling. And maybe that's the reason it dropped so bad. But I think either way it was due for it was going to drop. Oh, yep. Boy, I tell you, Star Wars is something else right now. But let's not delve. We've spoken enough about The Rise of Skywalker over the course of the last couple of weeks, even before we took our week hiatus to celebrate Christmas and the holidays and things of that nature. So, it's just unfortunate that it's turned to this, but like I said, you got Mandalorian, and if you have Mandalorian, then you're in good shape. All right, something I want to talk about briefly here before we get to the bullshit segment, because I was actually kind of sitting here debating which of these two do I want to put in the bullshit category. And I decided I'm not going to put this one in the bullshit category, but it was very close. It was very, very close. This is just a prime example of just how much work goes into writing an article. The Xbox X Series is the wrong console for a climate crisis. What climate crisis? What climate crisis? I haven't seen one. Oh, you mean because people are out there screaming 12 years will be dead because of the climate? I'm supposed to believe that? Can somebody show me any evidence? This is an article written by Matthew S. Smith about a week ago, and he's arguing that the new Xbox game console is going to be contributing to a climate crisis because it has 300. That's for chat. That's for chat. They know what I mean when I do that. Is going to have 300 watts more power, meaning more heat, more, I mean, is this really? Is this where we're at right now as a society? We're going to take it all. First of all, it is a fact. It is a fact. The United States of America is the cleanest country when it comes to using energy. Number one. Don't lecture me about climate change or energy or any things of that nature when there's countries like China that are still in the industrial age. I mean, this is ridiculous. Ridiculous. So in other words, don't buy an Xbox, because if you do, you're going to be contributing to the end of the world in 12 years. You might not think your console contributes much to climate change. Game consoles don't produce any obvious pollution, and while some end up in dumps, many are resold. Power consumption isn't frequently discussed by console manufacturers, and consoles don't carry the bright yellow energy guide labels you'll find in an oven, refrigerator, or dryer. A recent study in the Computer Games Journal found that United States gamers are responsible for as much carbon dioxide as 5 million cars annually. 5 million cars is a pebble tossed into a lake full of cars. There are 5 million cars probably in Los Angeles alone. So let's not pretend that we're hitting dire straits here, people. Not to mention, this guy doesn't even give any proof of his numbers. He just throws it in the article. Why is everyone and their mother, from politicians to entertainment industry to gaming industry, why is everyone screaming and crying about climate change? I understand there might be some issues out there. I understand we have to do better. But can we stop having people pretending to take the moral high ground on climate change and saying we have to take care of the world? We can't even take care of ourselves. How in God's name are we going to take care of the world? We sit on our computers and our phones fighting over Twitter, and you want to try and sell me on the fact that we're going to save the planet? Give me a break. There's something called nature, okay? If the planet wants to shake us off like fleas, guess what? We're done. There's no amount of carbon saving and recycling that's going to save us. I understand climate change is a reality, but it's not going to end the world in 12 years. And not going to convince me that playing a next-gen console is going to contribute to the end of the world. Stop it. Stop it. Unreal with these people. I can't believe people actually get paid to write articles like this. How much does this person get paid to write this crap? Really? Did you go to school for this? Unreal. Unreal. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. All right. Off to the bullshit segment.
Attention, this is not a test. Do not adjust your computer. This is an E.T.N. bullshit alert.
All right, back to freaking Star Wars. So apparently, Kelly Marie Tran is one of the best actresses right now in the market. There's a trend going around that she deserves better. And there is an article on the Mary Sue that talks about Kelly Marie Tran like she is the best thing to happen to anyone since you first got laid. I kid you not. Let's go through this article, and I'll try not to read all of it, because if I do, I might faint from the stupidity in this, and you guys might faint too. Kelly Marie Tran as Rose Tico being cut down to less than 2 minutes of screen time in one of the most frustrating aspects of Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. Not for me. I could care less. Maybe frustrating for the writer. The character of Rose Tico is a controversial one in the Star Wars universe for a myriad of reasons, but the racist, sexist, and traumatic experience Tran dealt with on social media was disgusting. First of all, that is still up in the air. We know that she did close down, I believe it was her Instagram. There was no evidence saying that she did it because of being harassed. It is what it is. I'm not going to argue with you about whether you like Rose Tico or not, because that truly doesn't matter. What we are talking about is a larger issue of representation. There goes that fucking word again. Representation in Star Wars and pandering to internet trolls. Rose Tico and her sister were the first major female Asian lead. She was not a lead. She was never a lead. Can we stop this? You're probably doing no favors for Kelly Marie Tran right now by talking about her like she's a goddess. She's not. She's beautiful. She's cute. Can she act? Not sure. I didn't see enough of her to judge whether or not she's a good actress. The actress is not the issue. The issue is the character. The character sucks. What else do you want people to say? You want people to lie to you and tell you that she's a great character because she's Asian? The character Rose Tico stinks on ice. How much more clearer do people need to be before you stop writing articles about this? You're not doing this lady any favors either. Stop putting her on a pedestal that she hasn't earned yet, because you're going to make people resent her for it. These people who write these articles are not doing any favors. And here's the worst part. They don't give a shit. They don't care. They don't care about Star Wars. They probably didn't even see the movie. They don't care. All they care is about writing about their agendas and their ideologies, and it invades the entertainment industry, which drives me up a wall. This article also talks about having a more serious storyline for Rose Tico, that maybe she should have had something with John Boyega's character Finn. I mean, it just goes on and on. Then it even breaks away and talks about maybe Rey should have had a girlfriend, a female friend, to build a relationship with them. I mean, it's insane. Nobody cares about that stuff. You know why nobody cares? Because that aspect of society has been long accepted already. You guys are late to the party. The reason people don't care about that is because it's already part of society. Like, in other words, live and let live. Stop forcing it down our throat. The Rose Tico did not make The Last Jedi better. In fact, you could blame her for Luke dying. if she had let Finn crash into that beam, they would have been saved, and Luke never would have had to teleport his body over to the planet. This is the reason why people hate Rose Tico. They don't hate Kelly Marie Tran. They hate Rose Tico. I'm hoping one day people can differentiate between the two. Stop writing this bullshit. Nobody's racist or sexist against her. She's a beautiful young lady, and I'm sure she's going to have plenty of opportunities. But if you want to see her succeed in cinema, stop writing about her like she's already won 2 Oscars. Ugh. Anyway, that is going to wrap up this podcast episode for you listeners. I want to thank you for taking the time to hear me rant, but also hear me discuss some of our favorite entertainment-related topics. We are going to be having a wrestling episode coming next week. We have a lot to catch up in wrestling, and other entertainment-related topics will be on the podcast as time progresses. Don't forget to write into the show. Ask a question, leave a comment, etnpodcast@gmail.com. Also, look into the description if you want to leave a voice message for the show. And don't forget to follow us. We are on iTunes. We are also on iHeartRadio. And we are also on Spotify. You can catch us in all those areas. So please don't forget to check us out. And once again, thank you for listening. We'll see you all very soon.
Thank you for listening to Entertainment Talk Nation. Don't forget to rate and follow and visit us on YouTube at E.T.N, where you can subscribe to the channel for daily content.